Hello, I'm Mr. Ozarka, your computer science principals and or AP Calculus 1 teacher for this semester. The following video is going to be all about my remote learning plan and what the remote learning is going to look like for this first semester. All this information is on my website, so I'm actually going to be directing you there right now. The website is going to be mrozarka.com, so it's basically just mrozarka.com, and it's going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. Now, for the remote learning plan, which is what we're going over, you're going to want to click up here, but it is important to note that every other class that I teach is going to be living on this website. So all the content is going to be on this website, but I'm going to talk about that in a later video. Otherwise, this video is going to be way too long. Okay, so we're going over the remote learning plan right now. So click remote learning up here. Okay, and it brings you to this screen right here, and it's got a daily schedule up here, course schedule, assessments, practice/homework, remind text and changes in the schedule, and then there's a little video on the bottom. I'm going to be adding other videos on the bottom as they become more important for the class. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see it a little bit easier. The daily schedule is as follows. Every morning from 6:30 to 7:30, it's just going to be in office hours, and it's available to students of any block. So it doesn't matter if you're in my calculus class or my computer science principles class, you are going to be able to attend this office hours. It's more open because it's so early in the morning. If you are an early riser, definitely take advantage of this. It is important to note that you do not actually have to stay the entire hour for office hours. It says 6:30 to 7:30, but if you want, you can just show up at 7:15 and you can do 7:15 to 7:30, get your questions answered, and then go about the rest of your morning. The reason why you don't actually need that much time for office hours usually is because it's more one-on-one. Usually there's not a ton of people that show up. You'll be able to get individual help, which again, you're not going to need an entire hour usually for individual help. Sometimes 15 minutes to 30 minutes is plenty of time, depending on the question, obviously. All office hours are by appointment only, so I'm not going to be sitting at my computer from 6:30 to 7:30 waiting for someone to show up. I am going to be asking that students make an appointment with this for office hours this early in the morning. Now, to make an appointment, you're going to have to send me a calendar invite using the process explained in the video below or linked here. So you can click this, or if you go to the bottom right here, there's a video that explains, I'll mute this, but there's a video that explains how to send calendar invites on Google Calendar. Highly recommend watching this. It's good to know how to use a calendar application just because, I don't know, I live off Google Calendar, so it's really important, I think, for students, especially in the future, to know how to navigate Google Calendar. So if you want an appointment for this office hours, or there's other office hours later on as well that I'm going to talk about, you are going to want to make an appointment. Again, this is just so I'm not sitting around. It's also in case someone wants to show up and I happen to have a meeting in the morning, or if I'm not showing up to school because I'm sick or something like that. So it is important to make an appointment. It's very easy. You just watch the video. All right, block 1 is going to be the exact same time that block 1 was when we met face-to-face in previous years. Now, this is my prep period, so I'm not teaching a class during this time, but if a student wants to meet during this time, they can make an appointment, just like I was talking about before with the Google Calendar invites. And then it says right here, however, this time is usually when I am busy with meetings or other planning for my courses, so I might not be available. So if you do try to do an appointment during this time, I might tell you that I can't meet, or I might tell you that I can. It really all depends. It is also important to note that some students do have another class at this time, so they might not be able to meet, but sometimes classes end early or they don't meet for a certain day, etc. So if you do want to meet that day, this is an option. Just know that it's not always 100%. Okay, block 2, this is the first course of the day. Same time as usual, it's computer science principles. We're going to go into more specifics on the schedule for each of these classes next during the course schedule section, but I'm just showing you the times. It's the same times as before, more or less. Block 3 is AP Calc. I did change the times a little bit just so it stops at 12:15, so you have more time for lunch. I did put passing periods in here, but you probably really don't need passing periods because you're not in school. But either way, you'll have more than a half hour for lunch. It is important to note that I can also meet during lunch, so if you do not want to eat lunch, or say you were eating while one of the other classes was going on, but you muted your microphone so people don't actually hear you eat, you can take advantage of this lunch right here and meet with me, and then we can discuss other things for the class during that time, so it's almost like an office hours as well. And then block 4 from 1 to 2:30 is the other computer science principles class. Okay, so that's basically the overview of the daily schedule. The individual course schedules, times are broken down right here. So block 2 schedule for computer science principles. The first 15 minutes, as you can see, it's 15 minutes right here, is an individual help session or a Q&A. So you don't actually have to show up to that unless you have questions or you will need individual help, or if you just want to hear other people's questions just to see kind of where you're at in relation to other people in the class. That first 15 minutes is just going to be a Q&A. The next 30 minutes is going to be attendance, warm up, and the live lesson. The attendance, you're going to have to show up to the class at this time, otherwise you will not be marked in for attendance. The warm up usually takes about 5 minutes. It's usually just one question, and then we start the live lesson. And these times, it seems like it's 15 minutes and 30 minutes, and I'm being very rigid about it. It's actually, these are just all estimates. Like sometimes the individual help session might take longer. Sometimes the live lesson might finish before 30 minutes. Sometimes it might go a little bit over. Again, these are just rough estimates for everything. So just note that I'm not always going to be 100% on this. And then lastly, the last 45 minutes of class for block 2 is just going to be office hours. Usually you don't have to do an appointment for these office hours, but it does still help me know who's going to show up to those, just in case I'm sitting there and no one's showing up and I'm like, okay, I guess I can end this office hours early, when really someone wanted to come in a little bit later. So when in doubt, I highly recommend doing one of those calendar invites so you get an appointment in for office hours. So that's block 2. So it's just basically 15 minutes of individual help and Q&A, 30 minutes of the actual like class, the warm up and the live lesson, and then 45 minutes of office hours. Now block 4 is the same as block 2, only with different times, but it's the same time frame. So it's the 15 minutes, the 30 minutes, and the 45 minutes for those 3 things. Okay, block 3 is gonna be a little bit different because it's a different class and it has different needs. So it says it starts with the individual help session and Q&A for the first 15 minutes, and then it goes into the attendance and the warm-up. Now, if you notice, this warm-up takes 30 minutes for AP Calc, and the reason I'm doing this is because in face-to-face, it usually takes 20 minutes. So I'm adding up a little bit, I'm adding a little extra time just because it's not as easy for students to work together on these problems. We're still gonna have breakout sessions so you can work in your groups, but since it's gonna take a little bit longer organizing that because it's not face-to-face, I added 10 minutes to that, so that's why it's 30 minutes for a warm-up. Math problems look a little bit different than the computer science problems, and we also need time to go over those problems, so that's why I gave it 30 minutes. So you'll notice that the warm-up for AP Calc is different than the warm-up for computer science principles. I did do that on purpose. After that 30-minute warm-up, we are gonna do a 30-minute live lesson for AP Calc, and then for AP Calc, the end is not actually a 45-minute office hour, it is just a 15-minute office hour. So that's basically the course schedules, what it's gonna look like every single day, more or less. Again, it's an estimate, I'm gonna play it by ear. So that's basically the course schedules for the 3 classes that I'm gonna teach. There is a particular student that actually has me twice, so they're gonna have me for AP Calc 1 and computer science principles in the same day. So that's the course schedule for each of the individual classes. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is the assessments. The assessments will be given online and taken in the same way as students do when they are in school. So when we were face-to-face, the assessments are gonna look the exact same way, even though we're doing this remote. Assessments will be submitted by students sharing pictures of the work. So rather than turning in your paper, obviously that's not possible. Given the circumstances, you are just gonna have to take a picture of it and send it to me. I did this last year, like toward the end after March, and it worked out fine. It's also nice because it kind of keeps track of all your papers. You can't really lose any of the papers. You're just gonna have pictures of them. Information about how grades are calculated will be in the syllabus for each of these courses. It is important to note that I'm not actually gonna be talking about that in this video because this video is probably gonna be too long as it is, and I'm just not gonna have time. So assessments are basically going to look the same as they did normally, only the main difference is students have to take pictures and send me their work. I am still gonna grade it. I have a graphics tablet, so I'm gonna actually be writing on your documents and turning them back in with feedback, so you'll know how you did. All right, practice and homework. All right, all assignments will be linked ahead of time on my website for students to do. So if you say you're in calculus and you can go to this calculus drop-down menu up here, click calculus units, and then you can pick any unit you want. We're gonna start obviously in the beginning, but if you wanted to, you can actually work ahead, which let's just say you wanted to work in unit 4, and you can click, doesn't really matter, let's just pick this one. You could pick any of the sections and then click practice problems, and the practice problems are gonna open up and you can actually do those problems. It's like this for every single section of the course. Okay, you can pick any section you want and learn it ahead of time if you want. You don't have to wait for me. You don't have to wait for the live lessons. It's completely self-paced, so you can go as fast or as slow as you want. Each of the pages for each of the sections have the practice problems, the essential questions, a little blurb about what that section's about. It'll have some important formulas sometimes in the gray here, and then the black on the bottom, I usually have really embarrassing videos of myself just explaining problems and whatnot. And it's like that for any of the units, so say you wanted to go to unit 2, it doesn't really matter. You can scroll down, pick whatever section you want, say it's differentiability, there's practice problems, there's certain pictures, there's videos, etc. So that's basically, let me go back to where I was. So that's basically the practice and the homework. Everything's linked ahead of time, so you don't need to wait for me to send it out to you. Please expect up to an hour of practice each day. I will tell you what you should be practicing or what you should have at least already practiced. Again, you could still get ahead, but I'm going to kind of try to keep everyone at least to a minimum so you're not falling too behind. But we can deal with that when we get to it. So that's practice and homework. Remind texts. Okay, Remind Texts offers messaging between students and teachers without the exchanging of phone numbers of either teachers or students. So what's great about it is Remind's almost like a middleman where I can send a message to Remind and then Remind sends messages to students. So I wrote right here, all messages are sent to Remind, which sends it out to students' phones and it just comes in through a text message. Remind acts as the middleman between students and myself. All right, I will use Remind to send out reminders to students about due dates, assignments, notifications on problems, etc. Students can even reply to the messages to get instant feedback from me. So if they actually, they get the message from Remind that I sent to Remind sent it to them, they can message it back and then Remind sends me a message and it's whatever the students wrote and then I can reply and give them help as needed. So it's very quick communication when we don't have to worry about students forgetting to check emails and that sort of thing. You are going to get that message. Most students are, they at least have their phone around them or they're checking them on the regular. So students should be able to keep up to date with those messages just because, usually they have their phones with them. Sign up for CSP reminders. You're going to want to click this here and it brings you to a link. Just follow the directions on the screen. If you're an AP Calc student, you're going to want to click that and sign up for that. If you are both, there's one student that's in both of my classes this semester. You are going to have to do both of them, unfortunately, but that's just the way it goes. So that's the Remind Texts. Next, I'm going to talk about changes in the schedule. Please note that these schedules may change as the semester progresses. So really anything for this remote learning plan could technically change. If I do change something with it, it is going to be a change for the better. I'm not going to do something that is worse for students. But if there's certain things that I can do better that would help students learn more, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make quizzes harder or tests harder or add new tests or anything like that. But if the timing does need to be changed, just note that I will be doing that. This is all new for students and myself, so if there is improvements that can be made, I will do my best to communicate with you about these changes. So I'm going to let you know ahead of time if anything changes. I'll probably make another video just so it explains those changes and everyone's on the same page. All right, and then the video on the bottom, there's only one right now. I'm going to be adding more videos as needed. All right, so that is Mr. Ozarka's remote learning plan. If you have any questions about anything in this video, let me know.